It's a scary time to be the rabbi of a shul. Twice in the last 6 months, Jews have walked into a shul to daven, to learn, to connect, and they haven't left alive. The oldest hatred in the history of the world, anti-Semitism, is rearing its ugly head through these violent acts and through hate speech, whether it's the recent comic published in the New York Times or the events happening at UMass Amherst that is explicitly anti-Semitic. It's a scary time, and our Parsha always offers an insight into the current moment, and this week is no different. Acharei talks about the scapegoat, the se'ir hamishtalech, the sent goat. And the term scapegoat actually began in the year 1530 with a translation of the se'ir hamishtalech into the word scapegoat. Translation was done by William Tyndale, and he translated it as the scapegoat. It lost the E and became known as scapegoat. Scapegoating is about pointing our finger to somebody else for problems that we are at least partially responsible for. And this is really the psychology that undergirds anti-Semitism. So what does our Parsha have to say about the scapegoat, the se'ir mishaleach, which on the surface seems to be legitimizing the practice of transferring our sins onto this poor goat that's sent off a cliff as part of the Yom Kippur ritual that achieves atonement and cleansing? How could it be possible that by confessing on this goat that we are able to rid ourselves of our sins? It seems to be counter to the doctrine of personal responsibility that we find over and over again in the Torah. The Rambam struggles with this question, and he writes in the Moreh Nevuchim that the Torah's reference to placing the sins of the nation on the se'ir hamishtalech are not meant to be taken literally. Sins are not physical burdens which can be removed from one man's back and placed upon the back of another. Rather, the drama of the se'ir hamishtalech, of the sent goat ritual, is designed to strike fear and awe in the hearts of onlookers and move them towards the difficult task of personal tshuva. The message of the ritual is clear. As the goat embarks on its final journey into the distant wilderness, symbolically accompanied by the sins of the people, all present should cleanse and distance themselves from past failures and transgressions by committing themselves to concrete future change. The ritual was meant to be a catalyst. It was meant to trigger people to say, this is really just a mirror of what should be happening to myself. And I need to look into the mirror in order to engage in a introspective process of tshuva to own my own stuff. Because this goat is not deserving, but it's really just meant as a foil for us to focus on ourselves, to be thinking about what part of the messes that we are in are we responsible for? What are the behaviors that we are participating in that we can take more responsibility and accountability for? And this indeed is something that we need to model to the world, that we need to stand up and interrupt hatred by showing that people cannot get away with scapegoating others. Certainly not the Jewish people, whether they're defined as a race, as a religion, or as the state of Israel. I'll conclude by reading a paragraph from Rabbi Jonathan Sacks in his essay, The Scapegoat, the Perversion of an Idea, which traces how the scapegoat became the opposite of what it was intended to be with the se'ir hamishtalech. He writes, faced with problems that it cannot solve, all too often a group ensures its psychic survival by projecting its inner conflicts onto an external cause, held to be responsible for the plight of the community. Hence the demonization that has time and again led to pogroms, massacres, and attempted genocides. Societies find it easier to blame a scapegoat than to face their own problems honestly and openly. Scapegoating, as we use the word today, means blaming someone else for our troubles. The scapegoat of Yom Kippur existed so that this kind of blaming would never find a home in Jewish life. We do not blame others for our fate, we accept responsibility. We say because of our sins, not because of their sins. Those who blame others, defining themselves as victims, are destined to remain victims. Those who accept responsibility transform the world because they have learned to transform themselves. I hope we can take these words to heart and that they enable us to feel a sense of security as we gather together in Shul again this Shabbos. I'll see you then.